And we kick off this evening with a look at the cinema.
I'm not a complicated man. I like cinema.
It's beautiful, beautiful cinema.
Cinema history come to life.
I found my solace in the small cinema I went to every Thursday night.
I'm a professor of cinema.
I go to the cinema for the stories.
There was no competition between the cinema and seminar.
I mean, it's not within the realm of conventional cinema.
And now,
here's Pace and Johnson
with a cinema review.
It is Monday, 8 EST, or a little after 8 EST, August 19th, 2024. And thank you for joining me for another episode of Cinemaster's Reviews. Was off last week, wasn't feeling the greatest, but I'm excited to be talking with you guys tonight about the biggest movie of the weekend, that being Alien Romulus. I say we jump right into our review, that being Alien Romulus, directed by Fede Alvarez. This is the seventh film in the Alien franchise. If we are just counting solo Alien films, a ninth if we are counting the Alien vs. Predator films. This film in the timeline takes place right after the first Alien, 20 years after the crew of the Nostromo from that first Alien film back in 1979 was attacked by a xenomorph. Only one person survived that, of course, being Ellen Ripley, played by Sigourney Weaver. 20 years later, the company in these films, Weyland-Yutani, is now mining that spacecraft, and we are now following a girl by the name of Rain, played by Kaylee Spaney, who is spending her time on a mining colony with her adopted brother, Andy, played by David Johnson, who is an android. They're just trying to make it by, and when Rain's work order is extended to the point where she is never going to be able to get off this mining colony, she is recruited by her ex-boyfriend to go with her to a space station that would allow to bypass to the planet the mining colony is sort of sanctioned on, so that way they can escape. Once they get on that space station, wouldn't you know it, there might be a xenomorph on there. Is there? I'm not sure. I'm not going to spoil. Actually, I'm going to spoil. Yes, there is an alien on there, and their crew has to fight to survive to stay alive on this ship. Something starts happening with her android brother, Andy. A lot of stuff starts happening. I'm willing to call myself a fan of the Alien films. I think all of them, even the ones I don't like, offer things to enjoy. Of course, the first one I think is a masterpiece directed by Ridley Scott. Aliens, I'm also a big fan of. I think it's one of the great action films. Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection I don't think are really good movies, but I do think they have good parts. Specifically, Alien Resurrection, like a lot of people give that movie a lot of crap, but I think I applaud how weird it really gets. And Prometheus and Alien Covenant, I think they're really good movies. I don't think they're great Alien movies. I think you can tell with those movies Ridley Scott didn't want to make an Alien movie. It was just sort of like shoved into using the franchise. This is the first one since Alien Resurrection where it feels like fully a part of the franchise that 1979 movie started, where you see certain elements like Weyland-Yutani just sort of seamlessly fitting in. You see androids in there, and I want to give Fede Alvarez, the director, credit because he, with this movie, he shows that he has a really deep love for these films, and he's pulling elements from every single film in the franchise, and I think that's what helps it stay so enjoyable. The first half of this movie is directly spot on the tone that 1979's Alien is making. It's not really even like a horror movie. You're just sort of watching these characters just kind of live their lives on this mining colony. Really great how like the sound is mixed in, where you hear like just rocks clanging. You hear like robotics moving. You just see like, oh, this is just sort of like part of the job in the future, how you're just sort of working every day just to survive to the next day. And I think that was really great. Once we get on the ship, I think you can definitely see the influence of Aliens and other films in that ilk, where it becomes a bit more of an action set piece sort of film. Characters are now like shooting at the aliens, a lot of big explosions, a lot of great practical effects. That is one thing I really want to highlight about this movie. The practical effects, not only on like the action and the explosions, but also on the xenomorph, is excellent. I think that's something that I'm not the biggest fan of when it comes to ADP, is that they started using more CGI with the aliens, with it being more of a guy in a suit. I think it really makes you feel like the alien is there and you are there on the ship of the Romulus as you are watching these characters struggle to survive against these face huggers, against the big xenomorph. Of course, that design is so legendary, and I want to give credit to where credit is due. Fede Alvarez said if he could go practical with the film, he wanted to go practical, and you can tell that CGI is very sparingly used. And I think that's when it's used the most effectively, is when practical effects are showing up, because when something is real and tangible, you definitely feel it more. And then even some of the less popular movies, like towards the end, you definitely feel like some bit of like Alien Resurrection with how like bombastic the third act gets. I think a lot of the things with the character of Andy, with him being a android, I'll get into that, but like how it delves into like what it means to be a man, what it means to fulfill your purpose. You can tell that Fede Alvarez was pulling a lot from Prometheus and Alien Covenant with the Michael Fassbender characters in those movies. So I really want to applaud from Fede Alvarez for pulling from every single angle of the franchise to make a pretty stellar entry in this franchise. I ended up really, really liking Alien Romulus. Kaylee Spaney is someone who's been on the rise for a little bit. I think she really broke onto the scene last year when she was in Priscilla, of course, playing the title role of Priscilla Presley. We saw her earlier this year when she played the young lead in Civil War. She essentially played Kirsten Dunst's protege. This is the first time where I can think where we're seeing her in a full-on blockbuster, like franchise blockbuster, and she carries this energy big time. She is absolutely not trying to like copy what Sigourney Weaver did as Ellen Ripley. This is a completely new character. This is a character, when we meet Rain, she is very much sort of like done with the world, like done with her situation, and she is just sort of living to survive. The only person she really cares about is her brother Andy. She doesn't even want to be on this mission because it's with her ex-boyfriend, who she doesn't resent to like an extreme level where like you have like a lot of bickering between the characters, but she definitely doesn't like trust these people that her ex-boyfriend is hanging out with. And throughout the movie, you see her get more drive. You really believe her when she's in these perilous situations. She really sells the danger of being hunted down by a deadly alien really, really well. So I want to say Kaylee Spaney does a great job, but easily the person who seals the show in this movie is David Johnson, who plays Andy. He essentially has to play two different roles. When we first meet Andy, he's this stuttering android, super nervous, super neurotic about everything that's going on. He very much knows that he's sort of like a handicap to his sister, and he feels guilty as to that he feels like his sister can't move on with her life because she has to protect him. He essentially only agrees to go on this mission because they need him, because he feels like he feels like he owes everything to Rain. And then when he gets on the ship, without spoiling anything, he becomes reprogrammed to the point where his main purpose is to serve Weyland-Yutani. And when that happens, David Johnson completely switches his performance to become a killer, not completely emotionless, just machine in the best way possible, where everything he does with that character is to is for the betterment of the mission. You slowly start to see the humanity from this character just completely wither away, and it just happens on a dime. And David Johnson completely sells that. I really hope this actor continues to show up, because he was easily the highlight of this movie. Rest of the supporting cast is good. Isabella Merced is in it. I've liked her in quite a few films. Really enjoyed her in Instant Family. She was in Madam Web this year. I don't hold that against her, but she's an actress that I usually like to see. Her character is given a bit to play around with. Most of the other supporting cast does their job well, but they're the supporting cast of an Alien film, so you probably know what's going to happen to them throughout the course of the movie. I don't want to spoil anything, but take a wild guess. But yeah, easily the highlights of this movie are Kaylee Spaney and David Johnson, and they're the ones that carry this movie, that keep you so invested in what you're watching, as well as the great direction from Fede Alvarez. If there's one major element I didn't like about this movie, with this being the 7th entry in the Alien franchise, you might expect there to be a lot of callbacks to the other Alien films. And while some of them I didn't mind, the movie opens with you seeing the Nostromo from the first film getting harvested and getting scrummed around with to see if they can find these specimens. That I enjoy. The other ones really did feel kind of tacked on. Without spoiling anything, there is a character from some of the original films that makes an appearance in this movie, and I'm just going to say it felt very, very tasteless in the way of how it was handled. I'm not a fan of bringing actors into the movie without the permission of those actors, and with how it was dealt with, it felt very uncanny valley. It felt very like you are looking at a computer, and while it shows how good the practical effects are in this movie when you see the effects of bringing back a deceased actor like this, and it just makes you just sort of be like, what are we doing? Like, whenever this happens in movies, I just feel kind of like, can we just let the dead rest? Like, I just don't think they would approve of. We don't know if they would approve of their likeness showing up, and I just wasn't a fan of bringing back these old characters in these ways. Some certain lines are used in this movie. It felt very much like the actors knew what they were saying and were a little self-aware, and that was a little annoying. So yeah, I'll be honest, I could have loved this movie even more if it didn't keep calling back to the fact that it's part of the Alien franchise. Like, the fact that these characters are fighting aliens, the fact that Weyland-Yutani is a is an element in this movie. The fact that the Nostromo is in the opening scene, like, that's all you need. You don't need to keep making all these cute little references, especially when they take away from the story like this. So that was probably one of my major complaints. One of the other things that I think that I wasn't the biggest fan of, I think one of the things that makes movies like Alien and Aliens so good is you can very much visualize in your head the small contained settings of each of those movies. Alien taking place on the Nostromo space station, Aliens taking place on the colony of Hadley's Hope. Like, not like the biggest scenarios, but you can very clearly tell like where every character is in this movie, especially when they split the characters up. You can tell how far they are away. I think the issue with this movie, it never takes that takes the time to really establish the Romulus space station as its own setting. So I often had a bit of a tough time keeping track of where all the characters are in relation to each other. Kind of a minor complaint, but it did give me a headache at certain points trying to keep track of everything that was going on in the movie. The one thing that I do really want to give this movie credit for, it establishes a conflict the second we get on the Romulus, that if these characters are on the Romulus for more than 36 hours, it will collapse onto the planet that it is hovering. And the characters initially go on the space station thinking, oh, we'll be in and out in 30 minutes. And when they get stuck on, you know exactly what this means and why they need to get off as soon as they can, because even if they aren't killed by an alien, they're going to be just sucked down into the bowels of space if they don't get off the space station. Like I said, I think the first act does a great job of building up everything. It takes a little while for the alien to show up, like the original Alien film. Really appreciate that. I think the second act does a really great job at just making it's humans versus aliens. The third act of this movie does something that I've never seen in an Alien film, and I can see for some people it might be a turnoff. I really, really enjoyed it. I love that Fede Alvarez, 7 films in, gave us something that we've never seen in these types of movies. And if you're going to keep making these legacy sequels, I need to see something new. And I love that we have directors like Fede that are willing to push the envelope like this, and seeing our characters fight against this new type of threat, I think was really, really fun. Before I head out, I just want to say the score by Benjamin Wallfish is excellent. I think the Alien films are very much known for its like very ominous, very eerie score, and I think the music that Benjamin Wallfish composed for this film really, really stands out on its own. Does a great job at keeping the atmosphere, keeping the tension. It goes up when it needs to. But yeah, I think I just want to credit Benjamin Wallfish for doing a great job with the music. If I were to score this movie on a scale of 0 to 10 videotapes, 0 being absolutely awful, 10 being absolutely excellent, I'm gonna go pretty high. I'm gonna go 8 out of 10. I think this was a really, really fun blockbuster. It's kind of the Alien film for all Alien fans. Like, if you like the horror of the original film, if you like the action of Aliens, if you like the philosophy of Prometheus, it kind of has everything just mixed into one. I think it does it really, really well. Again, there are some minor flaws I had with it, but it doesn't keep it from being a really, really great movie. If you're a fan of the Alien films, please rush out and see it. If you want a nice, thrilling blockbuster, I think this would be a great film to go see. Not that long, kind of does what the first Alien movie does, of kind of having like a 4th act in it, and doesn't do it quite as well, but it doesn't ruin anything. But yeah, Alien Romulus, I thought was a great, great film. But thank you all for watching this week's episode of Cinemaster's Reviews. Remember to like this video and subscribe to the video store. It helps us out a lot. Next week, I'm going to be reviewing The Crow. Seems like they've been trying to remake The Crow for years. They finally got it out, as well as Blink Twice, Zoe Kravitz's directorial debut. Thank you all for watching. Love doing the show. And remember, as always, until next time, watch more movies.
And the award for most vapid film review of the century goes to...
Yeah, movie review. Okay, I thought it was beauty.
And he's now in cinema hell, where one day we'll all be reunited.
This is me at the Regal Cinema crying as I did through much of the film.